Man Talk with Leroy Mark on Trans Africa Radio.
7:30 Central African Time. His name is Bradlee Holcomb.
That's correct.
I'm gonna, you know what, my Zulu tongue, hey Bradlee.
Hey, it's fine. It's a difficult saying. I was given an South African name, so you can say Kolani.
Kolani,
yeah.
EXO.
Yeah.
Okay,
EXO,
so we have Bradlee Kolani Holcomb in the studio.
That's
correct. My hashtag Man Talk guest. So we're talking about this whole idea. I mean, you're a social entrepreneur, but also you're the ambassador for the Feathers, which is also part
Johannesburg Pride.
Johannesburg Pride,
That's
and then as a subsect of that, we have the Feathers coming through the Hamidish Foundation and all these other allies, right? So for me, the conversation needs to, let's take 2 steps back. Okay,
right.
Is there still a need for Pride? I've got a bunch of friends I was telling you off air who've just flown in from the US, and a couple of weeks ago was Atlanta Pride,
right,
which was an unbridled party. It looked like it was just everything that needed to happen for a party to happen. But is it still relevant? Is it still catering to the need of what Pride was, or is it just a big party where LGBTI members come through and a couple of allies and we hang 10 and have a chat?
Look, I think, the context of what we need to understand is that Pride is about LGBTIQ people understanding communities coming out and realizing that they've got a place to be able to celebrate who they are and be able to identify with everybody else that they are, with and they can be with. And at the same time, it's also about, broadening the diversity conversation across, the broader spectrum of, humanity. And this is what a lot of people don't understand, the importance of Pride.
Yeah.
Pride really is about that. Pride is about saying to people, come and celebrate with a community of people who are different, who are diverse, who are unique, and come and be accepted.
Yeah.
Because they also are trying to accept you, and they want to be able to accept everybody else. And one of the issues, if you look at, there's only 22 countries out of the 56 countries in the whole of Africa that actually same-sex activity is legal in.
Yeah.
That didn't just happen overnight. That's what Pride does.
Yeah.
We still have the rest of the countries to go through.
More than half.
Exactly.
I mean, I have an interesting take on it, because I think that, this is the next wave of protest, the next wave of, activism. Because, I mean, we look at South Africa as a country, we look at Zimbabwe, we look at any country that has been colonized, we're still dealing with the historic racial issues, right? I mean, even a country as first world as the United States, with a very intelligent, smart, well thought out president.
Right.
Yeah. There's still issues of prejudice there. And often the conversation says, if America is still dealing with issues of LGBTI in the LGBTI plus community, how are we, who are still dealing with issues of massive, radical economic divergence, where we've got the people who have the money and the people who don't have the money? The middle ground is so huge that it's almost hard to even reach across.
Right.
And now you're bringing in this, what is seen as a niche cause. It's people who like to sleep with other guys, girls like to sleep with other girls. It really isn't that serious until they bring it to your face,
Because you see, sexuality is not just about who I sleep with.
Yeah.
Sexuality is about what I identify and how I identify, which translates to who I am as a human being. So if we're going to talk about, race, in conjunction with your LGBTI community, it's part and parcel of it, because you don't just come out. There's a process to coming out. It's a journey. And
I want to talk about the coming out process,
right,
because for me it's in tandem with the idea of Pride, because
right,
so how many times have you gone to a particularly LGBTI plus friendly environment and then met someone who at the office, Bradlee's from the office, I know him, we're really cool, and then your jaw drops to the ground when you're like, how? Bradlee, but you are like me,
right?
You also part of this community,
right?
And no one ever saying, it's very different when you see like a bunch of Catholic people in an environment. You're like, hey, I'm also Catholic.
Right.
What's your church?
Right.
Or a bunch of investment bankers at the club, or whatever there is. There seems to be a camaraderie, and we just seem to not have an LGBTI plus unity with that. But before we get to that, let's talk about this idea then of having an event. Some would say that by virtue of it being so public, it is already knocking off quite a few people. You know, I've just come out to myself. I'm not sure, but I want to get into this environment where I can start interacting with other LGBTI plus people. And then you have it in the middle of Melrose Arch with tons of press around, with people like Leroy and Bradlee who have 150,000 people on Instagram. And heaven forbid my photo lands on one of those timelines.
Right. Well, your photo lands on one of those timelines, you've got a community that's going to support you. The very community that you're trying to avoid is the one that's going to be like, come, let me hold your hand. Let me tell you what I did. Let me walk you through the journey. Let me support you. Let me encourage you. Let me give you all the things that you need and the toolboxes that are needed to be able to grow, to develop, and to be able to understand your own identity and know where you stand and how you feel about who you are. So if you're worried about your identity coming out on Twitter because you were seen at Pride, then I have to then question how you see diversity yourself and how you see other people who are different and accepting them.
Do we have enough people who are coming who are sort of allies of the LGBTI plus community?
We don't have enough.
We who come into, and I agree with you. There's not enough who come to the community for us to be able to say, because everyone sees it. Going to Pride is akin to you going, right, Bradlee, you didn't know, I'm gay, I'm here, and I'm queer, and we're doing this thing.
Right.
Because, it's the whole idea of, back in apartheid days where if you were seen hanging out with a bunch of black people, that you are a Nazi sympathizer, you are part of the Slaggevaar, you are part of that community that is wanting to overthrow the government or whatever idiocy they were talking about back then.
But you see, there goes that whole conversation again about diversity and acceptance. The more people who are not part of LGBTI communities that come into this community and say, look, I have a brother, I have a cousin, I have a sister, I have an uncle, I have a mother, I have a father. The more people we see doing that, the better mainstream culture gets to understand that we are just as normal as they are. There is no differences.
So what do you do to the prejudices that exist already? I mean, as much as we'd like for you to come in as an ally and have that existence and be fine with us, we can't get away from the fact that there are really, truly some hectic prejudices that arise. We just look at the fact that there's corrective rape with lesbian members. The idea of having people coming in gay bashed, being beaten down in streets that are their homes, where their workplaces are. The fact that I'd go to the office and say I'm gay, and there goes the promotion, right?
Right.
Whether or not, my straight counterpart has the credentials that I have, I'm still having to be a reluctant activist. So how do we get away from those to make it easier for someone who wants to say, yes, I'm an ally, and that doesn't mean that I am or am not, it just means that I am part of this community in the very same way I'm part of my neighborhood watch,
Right. Well, the only way to get away from, it's actually not to get away from it.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to deal with it is to just, continue the fight. Because, Leroy, we've got to remember this is a journey, right? Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight. We have misogyny that we're still dealing with. We have, like you said, corrective rape that, people are trying to deal with. And corrective rape doesn't just happen to lesbians only. It happens to a lot of people within the LGBTI community. It's about saying to people, how are you brought up? How are we teaching people to actually understand and respect that there are different people in the universe? There are different people that have differences and that, contribute to different ways in society. How are we saying to those people, how are you treating people when they are different?
Yeah.
Are you saying that people need to be just like you? Can you imagine how boring the world would be if we were just one type of person?
And the fashion sense, my God.
Well,
different story altogether.
That's another story. I think metrosexuals have a problem with that.
But I mean, for me, then it goes to the idea of then coming out, because as you say, Pride is all about acceptance, and it is the idea of finding a camaraderie within a community that understands what you're going through, and the whole dynamic of being an LGBTI plus member.
Right.
So let's talk about the idea of coming out, because for me, the conversation is quite interesting. You need to fight the world because the world is what it is, right?
Right.
So with women's rights, we have women who are women, so they know I am a woman. We're down with that,
right?
By virtue of the anatomy, we know on which scale of the 6 and sex being just an indicator of what the plumbing is, not the
Right.
actual act.
What your gender is. Yeah.
What your gender is, because also I've been told that the idea of gender is very different when you start talking about transgender.
Right.
Exactly.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I'm very careful, Bradlee.
We have to be very careful because we have to accept everybody as the way they identify, right?
So let's talk about that then, because you get this idea of having to come out, and you've got a community of people who say to you, we're out, man. I am Samizi. I am whoever. I am here. Deal with it. But you have people like Samizi, for instance, who's possibly the beacon of all out gay men, as far as in public discourse is concerned.
Right.
Who has the financial gravitas to be able to deal with that. He has the profile of being able to be out and gay and queer and whatever it is, and
Right.
not suffer anything. If anything, I'd hazard to even say his brand has benefited very much from his sexuality.
Right.
And then you have Bradlee and Leroy, who are sitting in their corner in the world, and then there's the whole idea of coming out. And is there a prejudice from people who are out to those who are not out?
There is a prejudice because, people who are not out within the community, people are like, but why can't you just come out? And then if you're not...
Because that easy, right?
Right,
Just
it's
pop
that
out.
easy. And then if you are out, why are you out? And then it's all the different labels that come with being out. And people then don't understand the journey that you go into when you're coming out and you're starting to identify. Leroy, I can tell a very short story about my coming out story.
Yeah.
My coming out story was me coming to Pride in South Africa and saying to my parents, let's go visit your cousin.
So you're from
I'm from Zimbabwe, right?
For the record.
Correct. Zimbabwe, living in Johannesburg now.
Shout out
right.
to Uncle Bob.
Yes,
Looking
indeed.
great for 92.
So, coming to South Africa with my parents and coming to visit relatives here was very interesting because that's how I then was able to go to Pride, because I knew there was a place I needed to go to that people like me went to.
Yeah.
And I needed to figure it out, and I needed to find it out, and I needed to know what it was all about and why was it so different and why did people go there. And I went to my first Pride, and
Let's just hold it there, because I want to get a full picture of getting to that point.
Right.
So, you've got Bradlee, and he's living in Zimbabwe.
Right.
And you're coming to South Africa, and you're going to this place that you've heard of, right? What had happened before to the point where you now want to seek out like people? Because surely there has to be some internal conversation that happens.
well, the internal conversation has been there forever. I've always known that I'm different. I'm not the same as my brother.
Yeah.
I don't like the same things. I don't enjoy the same things. But I also identified that I had this thing for people, for men, for the same sex. And I knew that meant something. And I had to go and find out what that meant. And I had to figure out what that was all about. And of course, the age of the internet kind of helped.
Thank goodness.
It's kind of made me research a lot. And then in Zimbabwe, it was also about, finding people that I could connect with and understanding where they come from and saying, tell me, what is this about? Why do I feel these things? And people were like, no, it's because you're gay. And I'm like, what does gay mean?
What is that?
What is that? And they were like, gay is your identity. How do you identify with yourself?
Yeah.
And that's, and then I said, I made the conscious choice of, let me go to a place where there are gay people that I can actually go speak to and say, what does it mean for you as a man being with another man?
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to walk around a place and identify as a man or as a gay man?
Is it still in Zimbabwe? Is this all happening in Zimbabwe? Because for me, the political and legal climate is also important, because that conversation with yourself in Johannesburg, for instance, have been very different.
Right.
Because you don't have to deal with the fact that if you do meet John and you now say, okay, now I know I am this person.
Right.
I've now found this person. There are places to go to explore this. There is people who are there to protect me should anything go wrong. There's a whole community in areas to hang out, systems in place, they'll induct you in, etc., etc.
Look, Leroy, I'm very fortunate that my parents made sure that the transition for me to come to South Africa was possible. So I'm privileged in that aspect that my parents could do that for me and for their whole entire family. But being in Zim was very difficult because it required one to almost live a double life and almost say you're not something that you are. And that is the reason why I now live here, because here I am able to express who I am. I'm able to live the way I want to. I live with my partner. My parents know my partner. His parents know me. And, we're part of the mainstream culture.
Yeah,
you're
economically functional.
Absolutely.
You're
And
socially functional.
We do things together and we have fun as a couple, and we literally live in a community of people that totally understand who we are. And when we do go to places where people don't understand who we are, it's also strange because there's also that whole, oh, but you guys look different. We're curious. And I think for both my partner and I, we're not afraid to push that boundary and say, we can see you're curious.
Yeah.
Come, let's have a conversation.
Sit down with us.
What do you think? What's going on in your brain right now? Why are you putting up all these labels without even asking? Why don't you ask?
Do you think, and I'll let you continue about
Sure.
the idea of moving to Pride, but do you think there's also a huge fear of not understanding what the intra-politics and how the inside works? So I'll give you an example. I mean, my best friend is a woman,
Right.
And she a straight woman. So
Right.
she has a very loving boyfriend, and they've been together for time immemorial.
Right.
And there's several times where we'd be at a place, he'll pick us up, whatever would need to happen, and he is fully versed in my life, in the gay community. He understands every corner of it because the nature of my relationship with my best friend has allowed us to continue it through, and he's also been able to have those relationships outside of me.
Right.
And so when we talk about the idea of integrating then with people who don't understand what's happening, do you find that it is a genuine bona fide curiosity, or is it a curiosity from a hostile place, not understanding who you are, you're different, so let me fight you?
Well, okay, so judgment itself, anyone who judges any other person or any other being is trying to make themselves feel comfortable. They're trying to put a box into themselves. So they're trying to put themselves in a box that's comfortable. So automatically what people then do is the more, people are afraid to deal with, accepting somebody for their sexuality, we need to question, it's not that they're afraid of the person. It's actually, they're afraid of what it means for them.
Yeah.
So essentially we need to have the conversation with them to say, but what are you thinking? Why are you thinking it's different? What did you come up with that made all those differences?
Yeah.
And I think for you, in your integration that you just spoke about now, your best friend's partner is saying, look, you belong to somebody I love.
Yeah.
So therefore, I need to make the effort to get to know you and understand why this person that I love loves you. And in so doing, you have broadened his mind to now say, oh, okay.
So it's not that bad.
So you're actually quite cool.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is we need to be doing more of those.
Yeah.
And we need to be working on more of those. And essentially, that's what Pride is all about.
Bringing them together.
Bringing it all together.
I want to see a bunch of rappers come to Pride.
Wow.
Shout out to Casper.
Wow.
AKA come through.
Let's just say there might be a surprise.
This is Trans Africa Radio.
From Ghana, it is Becca on Trans Africa Radio, taking us to 7 p.m. Central African Time. News, views, reviews, interviews, and everything you've come to expect this side of the equator. I've got my hashtag ManTalk guest. His name is Bradlee. He is a social entrepreneur. Let's talk about this idea of social entrepreneurship real quick, right?
Right.
What would make you want to become a social entrepreneur? I mean, sometimes people think that the words themselves are sort of oxymoronic.
Right.
Because how can you be a social, so looking after things in the community and issues, and then want to make money out of it? Like it sounds...
But maybe that's the mistake, is that people seem to think that entrepreneurial necessarily translates to wanting to make money out of it.
Yeah.
It's not about making money out of it, but it's more about being sufficient and self-sufficient.
Okay.
And social entrepreneurship really is about that. It's about saying to different cultures, communities, how do we teach you all to become self-sufficient and then translate that into making some sort of wealth for those particular communities and being able to stand alone. I mean, if we think about it, Johannesburg Pride is a non-funded NPC.
Yeah.
You see, we're a non-profit, company that's not funded. And a lot of the stuff that we do for the whole year is to come and try and get Pride going.
Get the funds for it.
Get the funds for it. So it's about, getting to a point where we can all say, how do we work with the community together to start funding organizations that are helping Pride people coming out and finding their identity.
So let's talk about these organizations. I mean, there's many of them on the fringes as well. And
Right.
I mean, we'll get into the, before we left for the break, about the whole idea of what the individual, examples.
Diversity groups are.
Just examples of those groups so that we know what we're talking about. Because again, we take for granted that people understand what the difference is between bisexuality and, being gay, being lesbian, being transgender, intersex, whatever it is.
Right.
And so when you say to them, this is, we're talking about diversity, they go, well, I mean, I'm not part of the LGBTI, I'm not part of the acronym, so surely I'm not in there.
Right.
Because it doesn't, put a place for the H in heterosexual, for instance.
Right.
But we know that it's also inclusive of that. So,
Correct.
but let's go back to that. I mean, how many of those, supportive campaigns, and what are those campaigns? Who are the people who need the support, who aren't necessarily the core?
So the people that need this, I mean, look, LGBTIQ stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer.
Yeah.
Right. And all the other new acronyms that keep getting added into it.
Yeah.
So if we think about just those acronyms that I've just mentioned now and those different diversity groups, all of that needs support.
Yeah.
All of them need support. And look, there are many organizations in South Africa, Leroy, and in the world actually, that focus around helping, LGBTI and Q communities. But for Johannesburg Pride, it's always difficult for us because nobody ever comes to us to say, hi, how can we join forces?
Yeah.
How can we help? How can we work together?
But why is that, Bradlee?
I think because people just have this impression that, because we choose Melrose Arch, which is one of our partners, they came on board. They came to us and said, we would love to do that.
So it wasn't Pride going and saying, right, we don't want to really go down to Zoo Lake because it's a bit, and we don't want to go down to Soweto or anything like that. It was just a matter of having a partner who has the available facilities.
Who has available facilities and the funding to be able to support us, and that's what it is. It's about being able to have that because there's so much that goes into organizing a Pride event that people don't understand and don't realize. And obviously I'm not going to go into the background of that, but it's all of those conversations where I would really love to see where we all come together and say, look, we're all one community. How do we all help each other with the same agenda? And the same agenda is that we all want to identify and we all want to be able to be respected and understood and live a wonderful life in mainstream culture.
Yeah.
And it would be great if all the organizations that are in South Africa would come together. I mean, we currently have We the Brave, you guys as Trans Africa Radio. Thank you guys, as a media partner for us. There's a lot of other people that have joined us this year as well that have, are really getting part and parcel of what we are. I mean, if you think about it, Leroy, since 2012, this organization has not had any money coming into it.
5 years.
5 years.
Show me a company that would have zero balance sheet.
Right.
5 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
And to think that we have hosted a Pride function every single year.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, there's someone out there who's working very hard throughout the year.
Absolutely.
To
And
make
that's
sure.
what it is. And, we would love to work harder and do so many other more programs, which, like I mentioned earlier, we are starting to now having traction with certain groups coming to the
Well, and
forefront.
also there's always been that issue about, the fact that there's some sort of, exclusivity about the prides themselves in that, these organizations will host Pride and you have to have one on the same weekend because the clientele is different. And, and maybe that's the next question. Is it an issue of having one big Pride, or would you guys be open to the fact that every other month, every other, 2 months, we have a Pride happening, whether it's in Soweto, whether it's happening in Bloemfontein, wherever it is, because up to now, the conversation on the ground, at least, seems to think that, Pride is for, if Bradlee and co are not hosting it, it's not official Pride, it therefore shouldn't be given the support it requires.
Well, let's put it this way. It's about the support that people need.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about the community itself. So it's about the communities that or the groups that can support the community. So we're not adverse to other people having prides. I mean, who would be? I mean, that's the whole point. The more people that can get the message across, the better. What we're about is saying we are one of the largest gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex organizations in Africa right now, where people in Africa, the 56 countries, people are flying in next weekend to come and go to Pride and have, their expression at Pride. Yeah. What does that say to you? That says that at some point we're saying, guys, let's all come together, let's do things in unison so that we're all supporting each other and we're speaking the same narrative to the world and we're supporting an African narrative to the world.
But what is the support that is required? Because, we hear the you need support, but is it an infrastructural, is it a resourceful, resource-based support? What is it that is required to make the Pride do what it needs to do? Because let's say we have a genie in a bottle, let's say we're able to wave a magic wand, what would Pride then need to give that support? Is it an issue? Because then it also tells us to whom we have to have the conversations. Right. Because I'm sitting at home and I'm the marketing manager of Standard Bank or whatever I am, and I'm hearing, Bradlee telling me in support, but you're not sure because you're not of the community, for instance, or of the organization. Right. So you don't know, is it a financial backing? Is it an infrastructural backing? Is it a resource backing? What do we need? Do we need more celebrities coming on board to show their faces? Because I see Tamara Day will be there as well. Right. We've got We the Brave, we've got Vodacom coming in. And I had a meeting with guys from Vodacom who deal with Vodacom and this past week, and they also said, they bring it out there. There's other, Starbucks is coming in, Melrose is in there, but what else do we need? Because we've got these partners in here. Right. But do I have a place to come in? Do I have the resource that you need? What is it?
So Leroy, let me put it this way. Every single person that works with Johannesburg Pride right now is a volunteer. Okay. Every single person. Yeah. From the executive directors to the chair, to the board of trust, the board of Johannesburg Pride, and to the organizing committee as well. We're all volunteers. So we're all actually doing our 9 to 5s and also making sure that Johannesburg Pride is running.
So you do the 5 to midnight.
Right. So wouldn't we also love to just be like, whew,
Monday to Friday sorted out.
Right. Let's have a Monday to Friday that I can actually come and do what I love doing, which is saying to the community, come, let me help you. What community do we need to go to? We would love to be able to go to every single Pride in Johannesburg and be able to say, we're here. But do we have the money to do that? Yeah. Do we have the infrastructure to go there and support and be like, what are your issues? How do we help you? Which organizations can we help you talk to? Those are the kind of things that we need. We need organizations to just come on board and say, let us see how we can help. Just let's have the conversation.
Because you find that you have it readily available. Because if you've got issues, exactly. I'd never have thought that Vodacom would have come in. Right. But it just makes all the sense in the world because you're a telecoms company and where are your people, your customers? Who are they? Correct. It's inclusive of it. And also I think it's important to note that it's not also a community that stands apart from everywhere else. Right. When you have issues of race, you've got race and on top of that you've got the LGBTI issues together. Right. It doesn't disappear because there's a superiority in cause. Correct. It's all the same. So let's then talk about these groups. So we've got the LGBTI community coming in together and Pride happens next week. What are the activities we should be looking out for on the day apart from the 45-minute march, which I might join if you're saying it's just 45 minutes.
It is 45 minutes, Leroy. It's not going to take most of your time.
Because also very short. Let me tell you, my people know how to dress up, right?
Right. And so come in everything. Come in everything. Bring the whole closet. Make sure the closet is out with you. Don't keep it there. Bring it with you too. So, look. So there's quite a few things. There's going to be a lot of stage performances. There's a lot of food, and for those that love the, special nectar drinks of the gods. Yes. There's also a lot of the nectar of the gods.
The holy waters of the sea.
Right. So, and it's just the camaraderie of everybody coming together and being able to know that there's a place where I can wear high heels if I felt like wearing high heels. I can wear lipstick.
I'm wearing a crop top.
You go, boy. You see?
And my abs are doing the
with
thing.
Your abs. That's another story.
The last 2 weeks have been interesting.
Right. So, I just think it literally is about the people that are going to be on stage are really there to say, we're here, we're supporting Johannesburg Pride, and we're there to be able to say to people, we've got a voice,
Yeah.
and therefore let's also add to this narrative that Johannesburg Pride is trying to have.
What would you like to see of Johannesburg Pride in 10 years' time? If we could have everything on your wish list, where would you see this happening? Where would it be in 5 years' time? 10 years' time?
There's so much, so the executive director, Kay, and I have had lots of conversations, and so has the committee as well.
I need to say though, I'm loving the Starbucks inclusion, right? Because I was part of the conversations with the feathers,
Right.
At the Starbucks,
Right.
and you know what? I don't know, man. It just looks right. Bring all the Starbucks.
Like Starbucks must be like, kudos to them.
Yeah.
And I'm calling on other more corporates
Yeah.
to come on board and do the same.
They have actually they have a drink out actually.
Yes, they do. They've got they've actually got quite a few, and on Pride itself, there's going to be a few more that are going to come out as well.
Okay.
So come to Pride because Starbucks Melrose Arch is opening this coming weekend. Yeah,
this week.
So yeah.
So you're like one of the few people to go through to the Starbucks,
Right.
and you also get to have the Pride drinks.
Absolutely. So while you're there this weekend, you're going to have quite a few Pride drinks.
Have you found that the partners that have come on board? I mean, I know you say that there's all volunteer work
Right.
and the synergies, but have you found that they understand what the idea of Pride is? Because I do find a lot of people finding the idea of the pink dollar, having this community, because whether you want to or not, you are talking to a very big sector of the country.
Right.
If you look at the whole LGBTI acronym, you at least got like 35-40% of the people
Right.
are included somewhere there at some point or other in their lives.
Right.
And if you think about the fact that these are people who are in commerce, people who are in legal, in whatever sphere they are, this is a big money making scheme. Like you could really get
let's
your,
not call it a scheme. It's not a
a
scheme.
money making it's a
A
good-
money making opportunity.
opportunity.
For
You can
corporates,
come
yes.
in and really get your bucks worth, literally.
Right.
And so for me, again, it's a confusion of saying, I mean, if I know, and let's be frank. Let's be frank. The pink dollar is great.
Right.
Gay folk have money.
Yeah.
Some. Let's not be overly facetious, but so why not use this industry in the very same way that when you've got 15 students gathering in a corner somewhere, you're already selling them, banking and God knows what else.
Right.
Here is a whole sector, and why aren't enough? I mean, I'm just thinking about the guys who make gin alone should be popping through over there, because I know
they are popping through.
yeah.
There's a few gin companies there. I think Bombay Sapphire is there, and a few other gin organizations as well that are coming through. So I think this the reality is that if corporate South Africa understood that just last year alone there was 18,000 feet. 18,000 to 22,000, something like that. We couldn't obviously count
on one day.
On the one day
Yeah.
in Melrose Arch. And this is why Melrose Arch is like, can we do it again next year?
Bring them through.
Bring them through, So if you think about it that way, there's a lot of opportunity for corporate South Africa to actually come on board. But not just that, but also for Johannesburg Pride to go and help corporate South Africa with the diversity conversations, with the LGBTI
Because at the very least, each organization
Yes.
in this country has at least one LGBT, and this is just a very, very low estimate.
Right.
But there has to be someone in every division, every department of every bank, of every organization, corporation that has an LGBTI identity.
Right.
If not, then their cousins do.
Absolutely.
So why not then have that there, just if only to support your staff?
Correct. I know. It's almost like saying to corporate South Africa, come on board, come, let's help people, let's figure out.
It's almost
what's
a
going
no-brainer,
on.
Bradley.
Right.
And I think what we're missing out here, I think the conversation that has to happen very soon is also the idea that this is not something that's going to be wished away. In the
Right.
very same way, you can't change your skin color. Think of it the very same way.
Right.
So we couldn't be like, okay, let's just hope that black people die, and then we won't have to deal with the black people in Africa anymore
Right.
in apartheid.
Right.
That didn't happen.
Right.
And look where we're sitting right now. And
Right.
for me, the wish is that in 25 years, God hope it doesn't take that long. But when we sit here and the next two generations come through, don't have to have this terrible, terrifying, because people are dying. That's the issue.
Right.
People are dying on a daily basis just because of who they are.
Right.
Who they didn't elect to be. Because I hate this idea of, I've decided to be gay. You can't decide to be gay like you can't decide to be black.
Right, you don't decide to be gay.
Yeah.
You identify with being gay, and then you realize that you're gay because it's in you.
Yeah.
It's something you are. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
You don't just wake up one day and go, oh, I've decided I'm going to be LGBTI. I'm going to find
nice
one
over
of
there.
those. One of those are going to fit into
nice
me.
over
No,
there.
you don't decide that. You start identifying with it, and you start realizing and discovering that, that is what I am. And there's a name for it.
Yeah.
And I belong. And oh my God, there's many of us, and I can do things with that.
I have one more question for you before I ask you what's happening sort of on the calendar and what we can look forward to and how we can get hold and come through. But for me also, what is the plans as far as looking at the younger LGBTI community? I'm talking about, grade school, just before varsity, because the institutionalization there is more homophobic than it is in corporate South Africa,
Right.
because at the very least, I'm an autonomous male, so I can go and fight my HR person.
Right.
But when you are a 15, 14-year-old who's just coming to grips with what you are, it's very difficult in a school. I went to a boys' school, so you can
Right.
imagine how difficult that was in the boarding house.
So can you imagine what is it called? Matric dance was like?
Yeah. Oh, my trick dance, thank goodness my best friend went with me. Put a dress on and walked down that aisle, girl.
Right, but you see, that's the thing, right? And I heard a story a few weeks ago, I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, because I think we've just come past that season of matric dances, where, a same-sex couple actually went to matric together, and the headmaster had a few words with it until he realized, hold on, let me change how this is actually looking so that people can realize that it's normal. And then he allowed them.
I had a very loyal fan of mine ask me to come to his matric dance.
Right.
And it became a very big conversation in my household, because also considering the public profile I have, and then on top of that having the LGBTI issue coming through, because unfortunately the media picks it up very differently.
Right.
They don't run with the right story.
Right.
And we were able to work around the narrative, and unfortunately I had to fly somewhere very soon before then, but we could work it out. But again, the fact that I had to think twice about what will this child's life be like posed the conversation, because even as LGBTI people in a public, you would know this, wherever you are, you're constantly having to be a reluctant activist.
Correct.
And you need to make sure that people learn what we are all about.
Right.
So for me, it's more than heartwarming to see the work that you're doing, and I'm hoping that people will just start looking at it as an event that happens in isolation.
Right.
Because it is a bit bigger. It's a conversation that happens every single day, and
Absolutely.
people live this. That being said, apart from Pride next Saturday on the 28th in Melrose Arch, the march usually starts in the morning around 10, right?
No, actually. So we changed that around last year when we started with it at Melrose Arch. So now Pride is officially, we're gathering at 12:30. Because we know how it gets, how to get all this whole community together.
And also, fashion related is a thing.
Absolutely. So we're kind of gathering at 12:30.
My people.
Right. So, and the official march actually begins at 2:30.
Okay, cool.
And then we're going to go around that 45 minutes I was telling you about, around Melrose Arch, and then come back and then walk back into it. And then it is time to now celebrate who we are.
I tell you, there's a very popular guy on Twitter who said to me that they're actually booking rooms at the African Pride Hotel.
Go for them.
So
good,
that
good.
they can just come down,
right,
and have a party,
right,
and then shift you right up into the hotel room.
Right, so that when we close at 10 o'clock, you can be like, whew.
But then the after parties are happening.
There's lots of them, and I keep seeing them all over social media.
I just never know where to go.
But that's the thing, you see, there's that conversation we were having. I would love those people to come back to us and say, how do we work together? How do we come next year and make this bigger and support you and use our social influence to help you?
Because it's very confusing to have it divided in the idea that you're all together during the day from 12:30 to 10 p.m.
Right.
And then at 11:30 when you're going out now to do the after party, there's now a matter of, Bradlee, where are you?
Right.
I went to this after party, and then the community gets split. But I also think that there's also this is where the economic issues become an issue,
Right.
The fact that, we all want to have our money.
Well, economic and diversity,
Yeah.
right? Then it becomes a diversity issue.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, also, I want to hang out with these people, but
Yeah.
I also want to hang out with those people. So it's also about that as well. So we've got to allow people the differences as well.
Well,
But
here's
we would
an
love
idea.
to have we would love to continue the party.
Well,
and
they
make sure
should
that
just
it continue
book
going.
out the Wanderers and then divide that field up into 8.
Right.
And then you can just walk around there and get into wherever you are. Because I think the wonderful thing about this community and that what I found is that you have a friend in everyone.
Right.
And interestingly enough, you just don't realize how many people in this community run your life.
Right.
Me in particular, I've got 4 people who run my life who are from the community.
Right.
So, and if you just think about anyone who's in entertainment, anyone who's in PR, in market, there is someone in there. And also, we're not only just marketing girls and PR girls and but there are CEOs, they're managing
then
directors.
you've got people like me who are corporate
Yeah,
as well.
I don't know why you do that to yourself, Bradlee, but
I love
to
corporate. I think corporate is the most exciting thing on the planet. But you see,
on that bombshell.
right. I'm also glad that I can also work across different genres.
No, we love you here. We love you here, and maybe we should actually poach you from corporate. But I think they need you more than we do, because we need to have a seedling inside the corporations to change it from within.
Right.
We'll see you next week. 12:30 Melrose. Get there at 11 to sort out your parking situation. Melrose has a lot of parking.
It does.
Yeah.
There's 3 floors. Actually, 3 or 4 floors at Mara's Arch that you can go park underneath.
Yeah.
Actually, why don't you just catch an Uber, since Uber is one of our partners as well?
Would you?
So
Look at that.
just catch
And
an
also just
Uber.
makes it easier for later on in the evening.
Absolutely.
And also, like, you're in the middle of Sandton, so book somewhere, for your friends and make it work out that way. But more importantly, just get there, be safe, look after each other.
Correct.
Because there are some weirdos who will be on the sidelines. I do, and this is just a really, personal thing. I really enjoy the naysayers on the side.
Right.
Yeah, because there was a particular religious group who hung out there the last time.
Right.
And halfway through, I saw 2 of those guys at the after party.
Right. But this is what I'm loving about it, right? Because if you look at our billboard as you're coming into Mara's Arch, it actually says LGBTI+Me.
Yeah.
I would love to actually go to those people. I'm like, but you're also part of this community.
in.
Come
all the way through.
and come and see and come and enjoy it. Don't just stand there.
Yeah.
Come, let's go have a drink.
Where do I get info? Where, if I've just walked in right now and just popped into the conversation?
Go onto our website, johannesburgpride.co.za. You've got Joburg Pride on all the platforms, so Twitter, Instagram. You can find us there on Facebook. We are very, very much on Facebook.
Yes.
You will find our pages there, Johannesburg Pride, and you can get all the information there and contact us if you need anything.
And if you want to give money, lots of money.
Yes, please. Lots of money.
Bring dollars, let them talk for you. Bradlee, it's been awesome having you into the studio.
Thank you for having
you next week. I'm hoping the plans I have work out. Because I've even got like a whole chamber outside.
Right.
He's here to bring my 2-piece.
Oh, so
Exactly.
hey, aren't you lucky? Your
Exactly.
designer comes here for you.
Listen, I need to look good for my people. I need to look good for my people.
Well, let's hope that it does work out for you and that you do come.
Dude,
Please do.
All I say is I get dressed up for the red carpet. At the very least, I can get dressed up for my people.
Absolutely.
And apparently my abs are something to behold, which is a lie. Because just this afternoon I had a big plate of chips.
Really,
So,
let people watch you and see what happens.
listen, I'm gay and I'm there. Whether you see me in the yellow, if you don't see it, it's fine. Just you let go of my belly for the day. I'm here for my people. But yeah, so it's at JHB Pride
Yes.
on all social media networks, and it is a Joburg Pride on .co.za, the website.
That's correct.
And go over there. There's no tickets. It is free. Come.
It's free entrance. Come in.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go to the VIP area, which it's
Don't go to VIP. Let me tell you, it's fun outside.
come because you see what happens that money comes back to help the
Okay, so
community.
book for the VIP and then come hang out with us.
Exactly, go book for the VIP because the money comes back to help make more organizations.
Okay, let's do it
happen.
this way then, Bradlee, right? How about we all buy VIP tickets?
Exactly.
How much are they?
250.
That's not really much.
Right.
That's a quarter bottle of gin for some people.
Exactly.
Do that, and then at least it gives you access to the VIP area. When you're
Right.
tired of partying, you can go sit down
When
there.
you're tired of those heels, you
Yeah.
can take them off and go sit down and have
And I
drink
do suggest if you're going to wear heels, Manolo Blahniks are amazing.
right.
Just for the record. Not that I have a pair of my own, but maybe I do. Maybe I do. Bradlee coming through from Joburg Pride. He'll be with you next week, Saturday, 12:30 at Melrose Arch. I'll be there too, heaven willing, in my yellow 2-piece. And it has been an absolute amazing conversation. Come let us know. Tweet us. We'll be there, of course, outside broadcasting.
Yes.
But let us know. Come say hi also. We'll be there. And just come through and have a party with us. And just, come in all your colors and divergences and diversities all together right there. So that's a conversation. Continue with it on _Leroy_Mark at TransAfrica 872. too. And I'm going to upload a picture of Bradlee and I just now so you can see how pretty it is.
This is Trans Africa Radio.